Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Writers Chat. We're so glad that you're joining us, whether you're here live with us in the community or whether you're watching the replay. Here at Writers Chat, we talk about all things writing, about writers, for writers. We talk about writers, writing topics, all things writerly, which is one of my favorite words. I'm Johnny Alexander. I write fiction mostly, and I also do inspirational interviews with authors on Novels Unwind. I'm joined by my co-host and my daughter, Bethany Jack. So I'm going to turn it over to Bethany and let her introduce herself and introduce our special guest for today.
Hey everybody, I am a nonfiction author and one of the co-owners of Serious Writer, and really excited to talk about my least favorite part of proposals today, which is the comparative works section, also called the competitive section. It's called a lot of different things depending on the proposal.
Yeah.
But it is an honor truly to introduce the two women who are here because they are both amazing at proposals. We have Cherrilynn Brisbano and Bethany Morehead, who, if you were with us a few weeks ago, is the wife of Cody Morehead, who is the creative director and talked about book covers and things. And Bethany is definitely his better half and is amazing. And I just can't wait to hear from her. We love Cody, we love Bethany. So, yeah, I'm just going to turn it over to you guys because this section is like, it's an important section.
But not fun. Not fun.
Not fun at all.
Well, I think, Bethany, why don't you just tell everybody what you do real quick, and then I'll tell everybody what I do.
Yeah, sure. So I am a junior literary agent for Cyle Young at Heartline. So basically, I take a portion of his clients and kind of help represent them and help pitch to publishers. So I deal with the book proposals and have to make sure that everything is in order before we go ahead and submit to publishers. So yeah.
It's a hard process, isn't it? Especially if the story's really good, but the proposal isn't.
Yep.
It's hard. I'm Cherrilynn, and I actually was a submissions reader and then a junior literary agent for Cyle as well. And so I understand what Bethany is talking about. My heart went out to authors who had a phenomenal story to tell, but their book proposal was not presentable. And a lot of it wasn't their fault. There's so much information out there. So how do you put together a good book proposal? So the Lord put it on my heart to step down, I miss it, and start a book proposal business called The Right Proposal so I can help people put together a presentable book proposal, because there's so many different types of book proposals. And we've gone into that on Writers Chat. And if you can go to the website, is that at Serious Writer, Bethany, or is that at Almost an Author?
Let me look.
And you can go watch the book proposal ones. But the competitive analysis, along with the marketing plan, seem to be the hardest one. Don't you agree, Bethany?
Yes.
And I want to say they can almost kind of go hand in hand, because if you have a good competitive analysis, you can use portions of that for your marketing plan. And we'll talk about that. But there's different, Bethany and I touch base, and she wants to give you the publisher's aspect, but I'm going to give you kind of an outline because we only have an hour. And if you want the outline that I'm using, you can email me at editor@therightproposal.com, editor@therightproposal.com. But the competitive analysis, before you even start, and I know Bethany and everyone else will agree, go look at the submission guidelines. Look at the submission guidelines for who you want to, the agent you want to send your proposal to, the publisher. I know Cyle has a very specific way he does things, and it's totally different than what everybody else does, but it's a very effective way. And what he does, Bethany, you want to talk about what he asked for in the very beginning, and then we'll get to the outline?
Sure. So, I mean, he basically has a whole format for the book proposal that he gives to his clients, and they have it's very detailed and very long. And many times clients will come and they will have went ahead and actually looked like at the publishers that maybe they want to get published with webpage and their submission guidelines, and they will just like put together their own thing. And I have to go back and say, no, we already gave you like the proposal that you have to go off of. And so they'll have to, which is hard because they worked really hard on that proposal, but they have to go and make a whole new proposal. So it's important to just know, if you're working with your agent, what their format is, or if you're just submitting straight to publishers, what that format is, because it can decide whether or not you're getting published, or decide whether or not you're going to have to do it all over again. And you don't want to do it all over again. If you've written a book proposal, you know.
Yes.
Bethany's being nice if she tells people that we've already submitted. A lot of people, if you don't take the time to go to the guidelines and submit it the first time within the guidelines, doesn't matter what the story is, they'll reject it. Bethany and some others are being nice by saying, this is the format. So, and it seems horrible, but agents and publishers are hardworking. So let's get to what is a competitive analysis? A competitive analysis is just comparing your book with other books that are on the market, that have been on the market for within the last 5 years. One of the biggest questions that I get is, I can't choose a best-selling author to compare my book to. Yes, you can. The reason they want you to do it is because they want to see that you know who the competition is, that you know your book is a little bit different than theirs, but people still want something in that genre. So here are a few tips. One of the biggest tips is research. You know, the book proposal is sometimes more daunting than writing the book itself. Right? I bet you everybody's shaking their head. Yeah.
I mean, the proposal is tough. And like, you know, you do multiple drafts of that when we work with clients. I'm like, this is not a one-time, two-time thing. This is going to go back and forth several times. But then writing the book is easier. The better the proposal is when you get that book deal, it's like the writing the book is smooth sailing after that.
Yes, it is. And if you're doing nonfiction, you should do your book proposal. It's recommended you do your book proposal before you write the book. But that's your choice. I didn't, but I was still learning. But it really, like Bethany said, it helps you write the book. But the research, how you can research. I'm going to read from this. And Bethany, when you have, I'm going to stop every once in a while and get your opinion on what we're saying, because you've been doing the agent thing a little bit longer than I have. Make a list of 7 to 10 books that are that tell the same type of story. If you're doing fiction, if you're doing nonfiction, that are in the same type of area and that have the same information. Look for competing books. You can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Goodreads, Book Depository, and other online booksellers. Go to your local library, but I say go to your local bookstore. Go to where you think your book would be. I'm writing a book that is a Christian living / Bible study. I would go over and find maybe where Beth Moore's books are, or Joyce Meyer's books, or some of those books, and look at what other books are in that area and what's the best selling, and compare your book to that. When you do that, pick the top 5. Your agent, go by the submission guidelines, but 5 to 7, I believe, is a good number. Some people want more.
Yeah, we usually say like 4 to 6 even. So yeah, 5 to 7 is.
Thank you.
Can I just say that if you don't do that, your agent will send an email to you saying, did you forget How to write a proposal? I need 5, not 3.
And I have to tell you, a lot of them, I interviewed a lot of agents and publishers last year at Blue Ridge. And beside the writing, the biggest thing they go to is the competitive analysis and the marketing plan. Because we know that books go in waves, right? Like people one time want Bible studies, another time want Christian living, another time biographies are really huge. So if you can prove your book will sell and that there's other people's books out there like it, but yours is a little bit different, what we're going to talk about.
Well, I know. Sorry.
No, you go, Bethany.
I know, like, publishers, they have like a database that they work with, and they will take these titles and plug them in, and it shows how much they've sold with those books and just the marketability there, and that's what they take to their pub board to decide if they want to publish your book. So that is how important it is, because they're using this to pitch your book to their committee to figure out if they're going to end up publishing you. So
good. That's a good point. That's a very good point, because they check up on this stuff. And the reason why they want within the last 5 to 7 years is because the market always shifts, right, Bethany?
Yes. It is constantly shifting with trends and everything. So.
Yes, I asked Kyle, so what's the trend now? And he told me, I'm like, wow, maybe I need to wait now for the wave to come my way. Like, always write what God puts on your heart to write.
Exactly.
Always do that, because his timing is perfect. I've done a lot of research on this one topic because I wanted to be prepared. And one thing most agents and publishers say is to stay away from self-published books unless they've sold a lot of books, unless they have, and they need to be within the last 5 to 7 years.
Would you agree? I've also heard this as well, that you also need to look at that publisher line. And so if you can get some of the bigger houses even into the comparative works over a small,
yes,
maybe a mix, but look at the self, but then also look at the size of the house too, when you're trying to like say, look, I know this title is selling because your big competitor over here already bought one similar and it's doing great.
That's a great point, and that was my next point.
I'm sorry.
No, I don't want to be. No, it was a great point. I want to tell you exactly what you should obtain, what information you need to obtain from these competitive books. I'm just going to list them, and I'll try to list them. If you want to list them while I say them in the comments, that would be good. And whoever wants this sheet, I'll make it available to you. I usually only make it available to my clients, but I also did on Almost an Author, on the book proposal section, I did a competitive analysis. All this is on Almost an Author as well under book proposals. But this is what I found in my research and what we've looked for. And if Bethany, if there's anything that I'm missing, let me know. Okay. But the title and the subtitle of the book, the author, as Bethany was talking about, Bethany J, the publisher, who published it, the copyright year, try to get within 5 to 7 years. Some people want the number of pages, go by what your submission guidelines are. The format of the book, if it's paperback, hardcover, if it's on Kindle, if it's on audio, if it's on all of those, the price of the book, and the ISBN. And that's just the information you need from the book you want to compare it to. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's...
Why do they want to know the price of the book? I don't think I've ever done that, but it's been a while since I've done
because they want to know for the marketing itself. Mm-hmm. They will see, well, this market, because there's different, like I don't want to talk about my book, but Michelle's book, Fabulous and Focused. Did they probably looked at it. Well, she's phenomenal anyway, Michelle Medlock. Yes.
There it
I
is.
love her book. Do we do it as a devotion? Do we do it as a Christian living? What's the
Right.
price point of each one?
Okay.
We do it as a gift book. But the price points of each one. I have mine's over there. Mine's over there.
That was a cute little pop in.
I'd rather promote my writer friends. But now what we're talking about, this is mostly for the competitive analysis is for all book proposals, even a children's book. Michelle has tons of those, and she's awesome with those too. But the questions you answer, you have to answer certain questions. So there's a format. You can list all this information, and then they want a little paragraph, right, Bethany, on questions. And these are some of the questions you want to answer for for Bethany Morehead, the agent, and for the publisher. How is my book similar? How is my book different? What promise does the other author make to the reader? And what promise does my book make to the reader? How are my credentials similar to if it's a best-selling author, your credentials? Why are you the one to write the book? And the biggest thing, never, ever, ever criticize the other author. Always, it's compare and contrast. Your book may be similar in so many ways or have same aspects as a bestseller, like, Liz Curtis Higgs or Beth Moore, but you may have a certain twist on your book. You write what that twist is. Creating a professional book proposal does take time and effort, but many agents look at it and the market, even for the marketing plan, the numbers, who can we market this book to? Can we market it in a different way? Is there any other questions like people ask, Bethany, that you think that I may have overlooked for that portion?
I don't think so. I would suggest one thing too, and because you're going to be listing the publisher, so don't use the same same genre of books from the same publisher. Use different publishers across the board.
Yes, that's a good one, because when Bethany J mentioned using a large publishing house, but if a book from a smaller publishing house sold a lot, we'll use that too. I mean, the competitive analysis is one of the most important aspects. When I first started doing this, I'm like, why is it important? And Cyle really explained it well. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, we do have questions in the chat, and I'm trying to go through and make sure. So some of these you may have answered, but just to double check, when is the title too old to be included in the comps?
Yeah, a lot of people want me to send their stuff, and they're giving me their email address. What's going to happen after this is that chat goes away. So please email me at editor@therightproposal.com. editor@therite, WRITE, proposal.com. I don't sell emails. I won't bug you. I won't do any of that stuff. But the reason, do you have an example, Bethany, of a well-written competitive analysis?
Well, we have example proposals that we use for, I don't know, is there a way that I can share that or send it, or?
You could probably, most of the stuff that we've listed is probably on it. That's where I pretty much got my list was, because Cyle, what do you guys send your clients as a sample book proposal?
We actually have like a full written book proposal that we will send, and you can basically go right alongside it and fill out your own. I even tell my clients, like, you can just like literally cut out our information and paste in yours. So it kind of makes it a little easier. I mean, you're still having to create what you're going to write, but it makes it a little nicer to be able to have that format there. So
my agency does that too, because they have a specific template that they use, so that when the publisher sees it, they automatically know. I mean, they get used to seeing that from them, and we do the same thing. We just take it out, put in our stuff. Yeah.
I have a question for Bethany. When people are sending you proposals as an agent, you're going through looking to actually acquire. This is like a personal question. When do you look at the comp section? Like, what order do you go through the proposal? And then does that section, how much of an impact does that section make on you realizing how much research the person has done? Like, how much weight does that actually give to you?
Well, a lot, I guess.
Yes.
It shows me that they did put in effort, because I've had people not go at all with the book proposal. I think Cherrilynn had mentioned this before, that I was being kind of nice, but there are times where like they've come back and they have submitted this book proposal that does not follow our submission guidelines at all and is just not well done. And they have like comparative works that are like older than 10 years old. And so like, it's like an automatic rejection sometimes, just because I feel like they don't put the work into it. They don't show that they want it. Like, that's one thing when I'm like, when Cyle has taught me too, when we're acquiring clients, you want someone who is willing to put that work and put that effort into it, instead of just someone who just puts something quick together and sends it off.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that, because I've experienced the same thing. And I wholeheartedly agree with everything Bethany said. I've only had one book proposal client that there was really nothing to compare out there. Nothing. There was absolutely nothing to compare their book to, except Bible stuff. And there was no book, no devotion, no nothing. And we put in the book proposal, we searched and researched and could not find anything. This is what we found closest. And if you annotate that, then they will look at that too, right? Do you agree with that, Bethany? But there's few and far between. I've had people say, I can't find anything. And I've gone and looked, and I'm like, I find at least 5 or 6. So it's something to really research. And that was great information from Bethany Morehead and Bethany Jett. There was a question over here. I was looking at the questions about, someone had a question about winning an award.
I've got that one up. Yeah, it's she asked, when such a thing happens, such as winning an award, and congrats again, is the proposal that is already in the field changed, or do the changes only take place for the next submission process? So if it's already at a publisher, would you contact the publisher and say, hey, this person just won this award, or would you let it go?
For me, we wouldn't contact the publisher unless like they were seriously reviewing it already, and we would contact and say, hey, just let you know, like, if this helps your decision. But we wouldn't contact where it's already at and where it's already submitted. We would ask them to update their proposal though, with that, and then when we send out another submission set, we would include the new updated one. But
yeah, that's definitely. And every award you get needs to be on your proposal. I know we're not talking about that, but on a little side note, I was looking at a proposal when I was with Cyle, and someone put that they won a tri-state elementary school writing award. And I thought that was precious, because then they started winning awards, and that's when they started their writing. And I thought, this person's writing's been recognized from when they were young. And this person is my age, I'm not saying how old, But and some people won't put that on their proposal. I think that shows a desire and a that people are noticing that you're a good writer. What do you think about that, Bethany?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes I do say that like the award needs to be pretty recent, but I mean, yeah, I would agree too.
It depends. Yeah, if the person has a history, and if someone just picked up writing again, I know a lot of people. You probably know a lot of people too, Bethany, that are just picking up writing again because they have time,
Right.
and they show that writing's been in their heart. That touches my heart. I mean, Tri-State Elementary. I thought that was
cute. I think too it's important just as writers that you keep a list of this, like you keep some kind of running list of like not just awards that you win, because you think you're going to remember all this stuff and then it comes time to do it and you don't know what the agent, what the publisher might want, but try to keep a list of conferences you attend. When you judge contests, make sure you're keeping track of what contests you're judging and what years you're doing that, what organizations you're in, what speaking things you do, because that stuff will add up quick, and all of a sudden you're wanting something, and well, when did I do that? What year was that? And it's easy to forget. So just start a bio, just keep a list, all those things.
You can put your awards on LinkedIn too. I suggest it.
That's true. Absolutely.
That is, and whenever you're published, whenever you're published, like Bethany doing this show, this is her first time. She's doing great. Isn't she doing awesome? This is her first time on Writers Chat. But something like that needs to go on your, not even if you participate every week. It shows, I mean, we're a little bit away from the competitive analysis, but if you participate in it, this is training. If you participate, that needs to go on your resume portion because you're getting training. But we're kind of off track. Are there any other questions? A
little bit, but it is important just to keep track of those things. Okay, more questions, and I've got like 32 messages I haven't even read yet. Do you want to compare? And if you already addressed this, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's trying to do both. I don't always catch everything that's said. Do you want to compare only to best-selling or at least high-selling titles? Sometimes it's hard to know how well a book is sold. And I'll just say, sometimes I've heard people say, don't compare yourself. Don't use like J.K. Rowling or Stephen King or some of those big names, because no one's going to believe you and they're just going to, sort of toss that out. So can you just talk about that a little bit, Bethany?
I say it's okay to I think it's okay in your comparative analysis to write like if your book is like Harry Potter, and then you can write Harry Potter. But I have a pet peeve when people sit down and say, I'm the next J.K. Rowling, because
yeah,
not exactly probably accurate.
Probably not.
So that's like, I say it in love, but yeah. So that is where I say, don't say like my book is going to be the next Harry Potter. It's probably not, but you could say my book is similar to Harry Potter in aspects that it involves like a wizardy world, or it's fantasy like that. It reaches out to that middle grade audience. So yeah.
That's wonderful. And then definitely say how yours is different. You could, if it's about a woman protagonist, mine has a teenage female protagonist, and Harry Potter is a male, and mine might, and I shouldn't say more girls read, but but you can take it from there. Use facts to back that up. Definitely use facts. But Johnny, that's a question I get all the time. You should use a few bestsellers, but not all bestsellers. And use the verbiage like Bethany Morehead said. Don't say I'm the next, whatever. You say mine is different and mine is the same. It's compare and contrast. But use a few, and they do need to have to be not bestsellers, but they need to sell. What would you say, Bethany, about 5,000 to 8,000 copies the first year? What do you guys go by?
We say probably, I would say over, like, if it's, depending on if it's self-published or traditionally published, but I say probably over 7,000 to 10,000, yeah, sold.
Yeah, for the first year. That's what I tell my clients. Prove that you can sell 8,000 copies in the first year. That's for the marketing part. But okay, Beth.
Okay, because Rhonda asked the same question. So she says, how do we know sales figures? So are you saying for your personal sales to put that in there? Because I don't know of a way to find out other people's sales numbers. I'm just throwing that out there.
I know that we tell our clients to look, I mean, we don't know their exact sales numbers, but we tell them to look at the rankings on Amazon. So like, depending, like if they're like million of something, you know, like they're obviously not selling very well. Like you can tell that
right
at the bottom when you scroll down. So yeah, that's what we tell our clients to look at when they're looking at that sales.
That's what actually I look at too for when I write the competitive analysis from my clients, is I look at the Amazon figure, not the figures, because we don't know exactly how much they've sold, but if they only have 2 reviews, you know, or it's, and I look at the reviews. If they have a lot of reviews and it seems like a lot of people liked the book, then I'll use it. If it's been within the last 5 years, 5 to 7 years.
I was going to say, when someone had asked about like how to figure out like whose titles to compare to, and Amazon's a good one, and Cherrilynn mentioned the bookstore and like, you know, actually going in and see what's on the shelves. I have found that Goodreads is actually a really great place to go because they do reader choice awards. And so you're actually getting what the readers wanted and they vote. So I always go back to like the last like 3 or 4 years on there to see which books hit the list in the genre because the readers were voting. And some of them, it's like, sometimes the number 1 is like thousands and thousands above the rest of the list. And sometimes the top 3 are just within a little bit. And so those are the ones that I go look at and say, okay, maybe this needs to be on my list. And then I go look at Amazon and check out just like that. How many reviews were there? What is their rank? Do they have other books? That kind of thing. And so that can be a really, really good place.
I love Goodreads. I actually tell people Goodreads and Amazon are the ones to go to. So.
Mm-hmm. Is Amazon, you can actually almost itemize. It's fiction, thriller, Southern, whatever. You can.
Yeah.
So Amazon's a good place too. I ask your friends too. Ask your friends who you know read in that genre. What books have you read in this genre before? Ask them. And one thing that I highly recommend, whatever books you compare your book to, make sure I tell my clients, you don't have to read the whole thing, but be familiar with what that book says. Because you don't want to say, my book compares to this book because of this, this, and this, and you haven't really researched that book and you're wrong. That would probably, I know Bethany would probably say, I don't know, I don't think we'd want to take this person if they're misrepresenting their book in another book.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you need to know what the book is about and have done a little bit of research on it, yeah.
Now for fiction, you know, this was kind of an issue I ran into when I was doing this. Not having the time to read a bunch of books, fiction, you know, novels, to figure out which ones were best. So what kind of advice do you give for finding out what which novels are going to be most like your book without having to read maybe 20 to find the 5, you know?
So, I mean, not even just, I mean, reading the back cover, of course, is going to give you a little bit, but I actually read, usually, I know there's a spoiler alert review that tells you everything, and so usually you're able to find those. So that's what I read. Because I understand. You don't have time to read.
I also read the reviews on Amazon and Goodreads of the books themselves, because it is a lot to read that many books. a lot of people say, well, you have to read the book. I tell my clients you don't, but I give them those suggestions. Those were awesome suggestions, Bethany.
Yeah.
And I will say one time, the publisher, the acquiring editor, sent my proposal back to my agent, who sent it back to me because they wanted me to change one thing in a comparative title book where I had said how elements were kind of the same and they wanted a little bit more in depth. So, when you have an acquisition editor who's really behind your book, that kind of thing can happen, because again, this isn't just for them. It is for the sales and the marketing people. And this is all the sales and the marketing people are going to see. They're not usually going to read your book. They're going to go by watching your proposal, and that's how they're going to market and how they're going to sell. So that's why they need this information.
Yep. I think I said that earlier too. I said, like, the acquisitions editor, if they like your book, like, they're excited for it. They're trying to get it because they have to now pitch it to the next team and get it sold to them. So it's not just when that acquisitions editor is interested, it's done. It usually takes them going back to their team and pitching it. And so
this one question's a little bit off topic, but kind of, what is the best way to find out genres that are most desired at the current time? That's always the hard question, isn't it? The trends question.
I asked Cyle, but if you follow publishing blogs,
Everybody knows Cyle.
And I ask other publishers and stuff too, because I want to be up to date with my clients and let them know, hey, and know who's looking for what. It's following the trends, but I do think that if you follow publishers' newsletters and things like that, that will be very beneficial to you. See what kind of books. There's a lot of research. Sometimes there's a lot of time you got to take to see what are they marketing now. What's out there? Is there something a little different that's needed? You talk to your friends. What do you want to read about? There's so many different things. But I would say follow publishing newsletters because they're on top of what they want.
Well, I tell people to follow. Like I read Publishers Weekly, and they usually have the next available trends. But even though we joke about it, like Cyle does know, but that is because not that he makes us, but he wants us. Like, he's been training all of his junior agents. We ask our publishers what they're acquiring for and what they're looking for in the future and for 2019 and 2020. So your agents will usually kind of have a little bit insight there too. But also going to bookstores, and I think you had said it, like just looking what's on the shelf and looking what those, even going on Goodreads and Amazon and looking what the new releases and coming soon is. That's kind of showing you the trends. So
I wanted to add here, writers' conferences is also a good way because the editors are there. And so sometimes that's where they'll say, listen, we have this devotion coming out and we need writers. And that's like, well, they'll do like open, call for some of those compilation books because they know that they're talking to people who were invested. Not that everyone's going to get in, but sometimes those happen at conferences. And then there was even a conference last year where Kyle's in the hallway talking to an editor, and he's like, "Hey, guess what? This is what we're all going to be doing proposals for this next 2 months." And it's like, okay, because the editor was there and was saying exactly what Bethany said. This is what we're looking for now. These are the new things we're going to be doing in a few months. And so, like, being at the conference can often help because sometimes I'll share that information with you while you're there. So another plug for writers' conferences, always.
It all goes down at the conferences.
All goes down at the conferences. It really does.
And I have to tell you, most of the people that we've signed when I was a junior agent, I met at conferences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I'm not going to say we don't sign people who don't go to conferences. We did sign some, but when you're at a conference, you get to meet the person face to face. You get to see their whole their desire for writing, their desire for their message. You can ask them questions in that 15-minute appointment that you can't when you get one, when you just get I shouldn't say just get, but when you get a submission. And one of the biggest things that I know that's trending now is that agents and publishers don't want a one-hit wonder, right, Bethany? They want somebody, unless that's changed too, they want somebody who is proficient, because if you're looking for an agent, the agent represents not just your book, the agent represents you.
Yes.
Your career.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Bethany, did you have something to add? Bethany Morehead?
I said I completely agree with you. I had something that I was going to add, but I totally forgot what it was. It'll come.
Actually, this is good to talk about. So I'm hoping this will trigger your memory. At one of the conferences we were at, I think it was the North Carolina Christian Writers Conference, there were women sitting at my table, and they had been, I don't know where, like, they heard this, but they're like, well, we heard you're not supposed to, like, pitch, like, multiple ideas or other things, just pitch the one thing. And we were like, no. You need to give, like, a range of things. If they don't like your first idea, have several, like, there to say, okay, well, what about this? So that is going around still, like, just pitch the one thing and you only write this. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I'm acquiring, like, I want them to have other books. Like, I do not want them to just, like, have one book to sell and that's it. Like, I want them to have other ideas ready to go, like, ready to sell. Because, like you said, it isn't the one-hit wonder. You are representing them and their career. Like, so.
I actually found, you go, Johnny, and then
just a quick question to follow up on that. Do you want those ideas, like, to be in the same genre, or can they be in different? Even in different genres.
It can be in any genre. When I was a junior agent with Cyle, and when I work with my clients, I tell them, if it's in another genre, that's okay. You just do a little blurb that I'm working on this, this, and this, and you let the agent or the publisher decide where they want to go with it. Right? Is that
what do you?
Are you that, Bethany?
Yeah, I agree. I think it can be in any genre. Yeah.
I had a girl send me a Christian living proposal, and she just happened to mention what her website was, and I knew Cyle wouldn't be interested in the Christian living portion because there's so many out there like that. But I asked her, I said, tell me more about this. And she reworked her whole proposal and on that one thing, and it flipped it around because she mentioned the other things she was doing. So it's good to be diverse, but you don't have to be. If children's book is your niche and that's what you want to do and you're good at it, do it. If nonfiction is your niche, do it. But have like a series or a few ideas. Even if the book's not totally completed, you don't have to have the book totally written. Say, this is my proposal for book 1 and book 2 and 3. These are the ideas.
I'm going to be just a little contrarian here because I was listening to a podcast just yesterday where the guy who is a big industry professional said, I want there to be focus. So I don't want to hear, oh, I've got a Bible study and I've got this and this and this. So sometimes you are going to hear differing advice. And here's the thing. You are going to hear differing opinions and contradicting opinions. And what you have to do is just really pray about it. And if you have an agent, talk to your agent about it, because that's the person who's really going to give you the best advice for you. So, you know, Bethany Morehead is here. She's an agent. If she's your agent, she's going to tell you, you know what, it's fine with me that we do this. And maybe that person that she knows doesn't want to hear that. She would focus the proposal so it didn't show all those things, right? I mean, you would do that. So, you know, when you hear things that just totally contradict each other, just step back and think, how does this really apply to me? And what do I need to do with this information?
Absolutely.
What were you going to say, Bethany?
I was going to say, Writers Chat, we have a Facebook group. So if you're not in there, we'll get the link into the chat. That is a safe place. So like sometimes like if you're getting like conflicting advice, feel free to say, listen, you don't have to name drop if you don't want to. Like, I heard these two things. Does anyone have any insights about this? Because people can drop links in there. We can say, listen, this is the experience. And that is a good way to network. I mean, there's been times where you're able to help someone with a proposal or even make a connection with them because you're like, okay, well, I saw this. I can get you to this person. So just feel free to ask those things in the writers chat group. Like, that's why it's there for y'all.
And if you're writing your proposal in your where that section about the other books you're writing or ideas, I tell my clients to put it in their biography section that I'm working on this, and this. And I don't even tell them to go into a lot of detail about it at all, because then somebody like the gentleman that you were listening to, Johnny, might just overlook that. But other people are like, oh, this person is multifaceted. But someone else might look at it as this person can't focus.
Yes.
Oh. That's how to say. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm done.
I was going to say, this probably works too, depending on the agent you're querying, because some only do one thing. And so if you are, Kyle takes almost everything, if not, yeah. Everything. So with him, like, send all the stuff that you're doing. But if someone specifically does like fiction, romance, don't send them everything. You could say, like, I've got a few other ideas here, but that's exactly right. Like, you got to focus. You got to play the judge. If you've ever played apples to apples, you got to play the judge. Like, you got multiple formats of your proposal, and you send it out to the people based on what you know that they want.
Yeah, you have to do your research on the agents. I know that's one of the reasons I think Kyle became an agent even, was because he noticed that all these agents, some of them are very specific. And so that's why he isn't very specific, and he represents most all the genres. So,
Bethany, can you talk a little bit about a proposal should be just for one book, correct? Or if someone wanted to propose to you a series, do they just do one book proposal?
If we're pitching a series, we usually do one book proposal. And there is like an area that we actually have where you put the series, and you put like book number 2, what this is about, book number 3, what this is about. So we usually start with just the first book of that. So
someone had a question, and I think we
there were several questions, and some of them I think we've sort of touched on, at least, if not answered. So if you feel like your question has not been answered, please stick it back in, or in a couple moments we can just have everybody come on and we can just you can just ask. So is there anything else then that you either of you want to say about comparative titles, book proposals?
I'm just going to go over if real quick again because a few people came in later.
Okay.
Should be involved in the competitive title, what information you need from the other books, and then the questions you should answer.
Okay.
And if you want this list, I mean, Bethany has a copy of it too, but if you want to email me at editor@thewriteproposal.com, the WRITE proposal.com, we'll give this to you because it's a great tool. You want the title and the subtitle of the book, the author, the publisher, copyright year, number of pages, depending on what your submissions guidelines are. Always look at your submission guidelines. The format, which is it paper book, hardback, ebook, audio, Kindle, things like that. The price, and the ISBN number. Not every agent or publisher wants all that information, so please look at their guidelines. And the questions you want to answer when you compare and contrast your book, and it can be a best-selling book, are these: how is my book similar? How is my book different? What promise did the other author make? What promise am I making? And your credentials compared to the other person's credentials. Like, why am I the person to write this book with this twist on it And how is that different from the other person? And never put somebody else down. I had somebody, I think that part, most of the proposals that I've read, people have been pretty good about it, but I've had a few people not be so nice. How about you, Bethany? And those people I've told, you can't say that.
Yeah, I've had people who said some not nice things about that.
And that's not professional. An agent would not want to work with somebody who's bitter and angry. And we've seen that. And maybe you and Cyle, Bethany, and Bethany Jett should do a show on what not to say in your book proposals, because we've heard so many and seen so many things.
Oh, yes.
That would be a fun show.
That'd be hilarious. But yeah, there are so many people that want to be writers and are writers and are involved in the Christian writing community. So there are a lot, but in many ways it is a very small world, and you don't want to be known for being that person.
And Johnny, you said something so very, very, very important. Pray.
Yeah.
Always pray, whether you're writing, whether you're doing your book proposal, whatever you're doing, because God's got this. Whether you write one article your whole life that gets printed, you don't know if that one article is going to change somebody's life forever. Or if you become a bestseller and you're changing thousands of people's lives. I mean, wherever God puts your writing, it's going to touch somebody, even if it touches you yourself.
Well, we only have a few more minutes, and this sort of does follow up on what we were talking about. So I'm going to read Elaine's question, but you guys can start coming back in while we're going over this one. If you need help unmuting or unvideoing, let us know. So Elaine's question is, do you ever use results from book reviews on your competitor's book? In other words, if it's lacking in one area according to reviews and yours is strong in that area, can you say that without being unkind, I guess, too?
What do you think about that, Bethany?
I think that it's okay, but you have to be nice. But also, the book should not be like badly reviewed. So like, if you find like a review that says something that you might agree with, but like if it has like 3 stars and you're using like the negatives from that, like, then you shouldn't have it at all in your comparative analysis, because then they're taking that again to their pub board. So they want to make a good book.
I think, what were you going to say, Bethany? You go first, Bethany Jett.
I know, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Oh, you sure? I was just going to say, if somebody reviews a book and says, I love these aspects of the book, but I wish it had this, and then you put that in your competitive analysis and say, put it in quotes or whatever, and say, my book has what these people are looking for. I don't think you're being negative. I think that's actually smart, because you're actually proving without your words, but somebody else's words, that your book has what those people are looking for, but it's not me.
I hope to show you some of the things that plate tectonics does to create
Who is that?
But it depends on how it's worded. It has to be nice.
Bethany, what were you going to say?
I was going to share a lesson I learned the hard way from my first writers conference. I was just so green. I didn't know, but now when I go, I look at the editors that I want to sit with and meet, and go to their website, go to the publisher's website, and look up the books that they're promoting on their website in the genre. Because I had an editor sit down with me for the dating book, and he said, oh, are you familiar with whatever title it was? And I wasn't, because I didn't know I needed to look it up. But it was their bestseller in that genre. So immediately I was like, I didn't know what I was talking about, because I didn't even know a bestseller, and it was from their house. And so I always make sure now, if I'm going to go sit with a publisher, just like go hide in the bathroom for a couple minutes and just look it up on your phone and just see like what is on there. Because that way you can say, well, I know you guys publish so-and-so, and it's a great book. This is kind of similar. Well, that gives you an instant, okay, they did their homework for 30 seconds before you came in the room. It can also give you an opener if you're not sure what to say. Like, you did your research. But I learned that the hard way because I was like, I don't know who that is. And he's like, oh, that's our bestseller. And I'm like, oh.
I love that point. That is, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's an
And
awesome.
we all make great big boo-boos and live to tell about them. So, don't just beat yourself up if you have a similar experience. It's okay. Eventually, you'll get to share it on Writers Chat and we'll all laugh. So,
The boo-boos are the stories. Right?
yeah.
It was going to be
I always call people by their wrong name. I've called people by their wrong name. No, I'm Jim Hart, not. I get people mixed up.
Does anyone else have a question? And Melissa, who is our wonderful, wonderful Writers Chat everything, she does save the chat so that if there is something from the chat that you want, you can always get that from Melissa, any of the information or links that are in the chat. Melissa is the best. We don't know what we would do without her. So.
She's amazing. Melissa's amazing.
She's amazing. We appreciate her so much. So there are a couple things I wanted to talk about in the chat, but we'll do that at the after party.
Not on camera.
Not on camera. Anyone have anything else they want to say?
There are questions in here about like one sheets and proposals. Do you want to do that on the after party?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. We can
Okay.
do that in the after party.
I spoke with, I think it was Johnny before this show, and I wanted to offer anybody who is listening 20% off my book proposal review service. I just take a checklist and detailed checklist that I've gotten from publishers and agents, and I compare your book proposal to it, and I tell you, I give nice comments and what you're missing, what you might need, what you did good. I want to offer you 20% off. It's at my website, The Right Proposal. Just tell me you saw, email me, and just put put Writers Chat in the subject line. But I'm here to help you. If you have a simple question, just email me. I'm not going to charge you for it. But anything big, but but still, I work with people. This is God's calling for my life. This is what He wants me to do. So I love it.
We appreciate that. We appreciate both Cherrilynn and Bethany Morehead being on here today. I know you guys are both very, very busy and have plenty of things going on, but we appreciate you taking time to be with Writers Chat. And again, if you're watching the replay, we're so glad you joined us. We do invite you to join our Facebook group and to check out our Facebook page, Writers Chat. You can find it just by putting that in the search engine. And to join us every Tuesday live, 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern. Thanks so much for being with us. Bye-bye.